Welcome to the Unwritten Podcast with your host, Thomas Malpass, where we're on a mission to help the world find purpose, passion, and peace in their everyday lives. Through deep conversations and connection, tune in because we are all on this journey of life together. All right, welcome Jolene, also the host of a.zen.mind podcast. So take us back to your upbringing and share some experiences that brought you to your own unique definition of what you think purpose, passion, and peace is. You can go one by one, or you could just give a general answer, but yeah.
Yeah. So, going back, I'm 26 now, so I gotta go back a couple years. I'm a big believer in nature versus nurture. And I think that it really is how we grow up in the environment and the people that are around us, our parents, our friends, that really shapes who we become. And when you're young, when you're a child, you are, putting all of your trust into adults, into your parents, to kind of guide you. And they kind of set that foundation for what you're going to value and your morals and things like that. So when I was growing up, in my early teens, I don't want to say we were a religious family, but we went to church every Sunday. We were, involved. We were Christians, kind of followed that path. I taught Sunday school when I was 14 years old.
Yeah.
Read the Bible, prayed, did all of that. And, because that was really all that I knew. And when I was around 16, 17, I remember I started having all of these questions. And I started asking them. And they were very, logical questions. I was like, well, what makes me and my religion and my beliefs universally right, and everybody else is wrong, but we're right? How does that work? And I remember I started asking these questions and doing a little research, and I remember seeing 420 plus religions out there.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, okay, I didn't grow up in, let's say, the Middle East, right? I've never been to Afghanistan ever in my life. I didn't even, know where it was when I was younger. So I didn't grow up hearing their religious word. It never, ever crossed my path. Just like somebody from there wouldn't grow up hearing our word of God, or anywhere else in that world. I mean, you could be talking about, any other religion. And so I started to ask these questions. Why am I right, and why are they wrong? And how does this church see that Christianity is right? This is the only way that you're going to get to heaven. It's all kind of mapped out, and all of these 400 plus other religions and beliefs are incorrect. And that's really when I started to ask these questions. And I remember when I did ask them, I was kind of shut down. And I was shut down not so much by my parents, but by the people that were in our church. And
yeah, because you were questioning the belief.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it was with good reason, I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it was just, you're getting older, you're starting to have these questions. I mean, this is normal. And I
Yeah.
remember specifically being told that it was disrespectful to even think about that. And that's when I started to kind of raise an eyebrow, and I was like, well, I'm asking questions. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and these are legitimate questions. And so after that, at that point, we're coming into 16, 17, 18, becoming an adult. And that was, when we stopped going to church, and
Mm-hmm.
that was kind of it. Like, I cut my religious identity ties at that point. And
Yeah, that's actually kind of crazy because
yeah.
I grew up like the same way.
Okay.
It's kind of crazy. Yeah, like we, I grew up, I talk about it in my first podcast, like my intro, but it's the same thing. Like going to church, my Lola, which is grandma in Tagalog, because I'm half Filipino, she was like she was religious about religious, like
Mm-hmm.
had an altar set up, like prayed every day.
Yeah.
And then when she moved back to the Philippines, we kind of like fell off, kind of just like how you were saying. And then like as I got into my teens, started questioning it. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's a very normal part of becoming an
Growing
adult.
up.
Yeah, and growing
Yeah.
up, you
Hmm.
start to ask these questions. And, for me, it was a very transformative time, because I remember that after I stopped going to church, I was like, okay, now what? I was like, I felt like I was free falling, and I was like, okay, surely I can't believe in like nothing, like there has to be some sense of like purpose. There has to be some sense of like grounding. Like, I'm not going to free fall through life and not be connected to anything. But I just knew that like religion and the religious framework it didn't sit with me, and it didn't make sense for me.
Hmm.
And, you know, growing up, I was also very connected to nature. I grew up on a farm, lots of land. I was always outdoors, always. And I just grew up being very imaginative and very aware of my surroundings, and just connected
Hmm.
to nature and life. And I mean, 5 years old, I remember the first shooting
Yeah.
star that I saw. Like,
Really?
I was young.
How'd you feel?
It was, it opens up this whole other portal of questions and
Yeah.
excitement. And,
Yeah.
so I was very tuned into my surroundings, and I was very connected to earth, connected to source, connected to all that
Yeah.
is,
There's
around
something
us.
that's so grounding about, like, have you ever, it's so weird, like, just like taking off your shoes and socks and like touching the earth with your feet.
Mm-hmm.
There's something it feels like you can like feel like energy like coursing through
Yeah.
your like the earth is energy. And when you feel it with your feet,
Yeah.
I'm sure
It's amazing.
you know this, like it, you could feel it.
It's it's incredible. And just laying out in the grass and
Mhm.
just listening to the birds, or watching the clouds, or walking in the grass and just being with your thoughts. Like, it kind of unlocks this new level of awareness, like we were talking about earlier. And
Mhm.
that having that kind of foundation with my experiences in religion and with religion, I think that once I decided to leave the religious structure, I felt still very connected to that. That was who I was, this nature, outdoors, very connected. So that was kind of what brought me back to the sense of like being grounded and being
Mhm.
connected. And there's just this sense of purpose when you're outside, when you're immersed in nature. You see everything serves a purpose, every single
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
Um, you know, and everything is a cycle.
Yeah,
And
nature is like, um, it's autonomous. Like
yes,
everything is just, it has its own, like, it's just alive. Everything is just
hmm,
alive. And when you're more in tune with it, you feel more alive.
exactly. No, exactly. And you just see this worlds, within a world, if that makes sense. Like you see all these cycles, and you see, life, and you see death, and you see the change of seasons, and you see transformation, and you see, you know, connection, and all of these really beautiful things that happen in nature just naturally, without
Mm-hmm.
any effort. And it's so beautiful. And that kind of started to shape, you know, my my purpose, and what excited me, and what made me
Mm-hmm.
curious, and what drove me to, eventually discover self, and
Self-actualization. That's what
yes,
they like to call
and
it.
that's what they call it these days. I think they've been calling it for that for a while, but
Really?
but it's true. I mean, I think that, you know, that was kind of ingrained in me, and that kind of comes back to that nature versus nurture. Somebody who grew up in a completely different environment, they don't experience that, they might not know what that's like, and so it really does shape you. And it definitely did, for me. And so, back to my timeline, after I left the church and then was kind of free falling for a little bit, um, I felt this sense of like connection with just all. And I talk a little bit about this in one of my blog posts, and it was kind of how I began meditating.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and to make a long story short, I was in college at the time,
Now
and
you can keep it long.
to make a long story long, I will happily go into details, but
No, yeah, like, yeah, that's, I don't mind, like, long story long.
long story long. Perfect. That's a green light for me. um, yeah, so I was in college, and it was my first year at university. So I had gone to a different college. I had transferred. I had taken a year off. I had kind of like trying to figure it out for like a year or two before I ended up at my university. I got my first apartment by myself because I was a little bit older. I was like 21 when I finally transferred into my university, and I was like just still trying to figure it out. And I had just turned 21, living alone. I went through, I'll say, a quasi traumatic experience. You're young, you're stupid, you make dumb mistakes, you do kind of silly things, and
Yeah, I read about that. Um, I did want to ask you if you were comfortable opening up about it or not. It's okay.
I mean, I think it's been so long for me, and it's something that I've kind of processed and moved on from, and I don't necessarily like identify with it anymore.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's something that I've kind of like put it to rest. And I don't
Mm-hmm.
think that it even deserves to be spoken on,
To
because
be talking about, yeah.
I don't think that that event which happened with that person, deserves any part of my story. It's more about how I handled it and how I moved on from it and what that taught me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's more about what the, not the event itself, but what you learned in retrospect.
Exactly. And I'll go into detail a little bit about afterwards, because I went through this event, and afterwards I had no idea, like many people, how to cope. Like, you're handed this event, whether you go through something or you see something or you're involved in something, you go through an event, and afterwards you're like, wait, okay, wait a second. Like, how do I process this? How do I cope with this? What am I supposed to do? Like, what,
Yeah.
what, what next, you know?
I went through something, I don't know what you went through, but it seems like I went through the same thing with like a toxic ex relationship. Like, it's like you go through like stages. It's like first you like blame yourself, and then you like blame them, and then you start to like take a step back, and then like it's like a whole process,
Yes.
which leads to like finally like letting it go, and like, you know.
It's a lot. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot. And, healing is never linear. And for me, in my mind, I was, okay, I'm in school, and I was always kind of like the strong friend. A lot of people kind of look to me, I don't want to say for advice, but for advice. I mean, they kind of came
Like
to
to
me and said,
lean
"Hey,
on.
yeah," they were like, "Oh, Joe, I'm going through this, and what do I do?" And because I grew up at a young age, my parents got divorced when I was about 14, and it was very
Hmm.
like we were very involved in the divorce, and
Yeah.
you just kind of end up growing up at a young age. You end up growing up quickly and
Hmm.
kind of having to face the music, and become you kind of have to toughen up a little bit.
Yeah, you can't like really run away.
Yeah, and you don't you in some ways you have a bit of your childhood. I don't want to say robbed from you, but in a sense, no 14-year-old should be, you know, knowing about divorce lawyers and, financial debates and, infidelity or whatever it is. Like, no 14-year-old should be involved in that conversation. And so
Hmm.
we had a front row seat to that. Like, we were like, my sister and I, we were right there. And, now I don't blame my parents for it, because it was their first time being, you know, parents. It was their first time being married. It was their first time going through a divorce. So we all have our firsts, and we all
Hmm.
tend to kind of not know, how to do things properly
Hmm.
the first time around. So, I don't blame them, but it definitely wasn't an ideal situation. So,
Hmm.
that being said, I grew up very quick, was very involved in a lot of adult conversations at a young age, and it definitely kind of shaped me into that, strong friend and that person that people kind of leaned on. And so after I had gone through my, series of events that had kind of left me like, uh oh, now what?
Hmm.
Um, I didn't want people to see a vulnerable side of me. I didn't. I was like, I just want to act like nothing happened. Like, I was just deny it,
No,
out of
yeah, I
sight, out of
feel
mind.
that. Yeah, I feel that. Like, you feel like you always want to be strong, even when you're like hurting inside.
Yeah. Yeah, because it shines light onto, you being human and you being vulnerable. And like, I don't want people to know that I'm hurting. I don't want people to know I'm crying every night. I don't want people to know I'm struggling with this. So, you
Hmm.
know, I just kind of was like, all right, we're going to close that out. I have other things to do. And so, having turned just 21, like, I was, you know, in America, I know other countries you can drink at a much younger age, but
Yeah.
um, in
Oh
America,
yeah, just turning
you're
21.
21.
Yeah.
So so that was was the cue to party, and
Oh yeah.
I just started going out all the time, and I just started drinking. I was drinking a ton, and you know, okay, you go out on Friday or Saturday with your friends, okay, that's one thing, but I started going to the liquor store before class, and I
Oh wow.
started, mixing something in my water bottle and taking it with me, and it
Hmm.
became this dependency where I was like, that was what I needed to kind of shut my mind off of everything that had happened. And it allowed me to be fun, and it allowed me to be, a little bit looser and not so in my feelings. Um, and I was just like, okay, this is what we're going to do for now. Um, and it was a couple of of weeks turned to months that I was kind of just putting that Band-Aid on, my feelings and just kind of trying to ignore them, um, until one particular night, which really was kind of the turning point that really shifted my perspective, reshaped my focus and my purpose. And
How long was this going on for? Like before that moment?
it was yeah, it was
Months,
probably,
years,
it wasn't years,
weeks?
no. It was probably about 2 to 3 months. It was
Okay.
it wasn't too long. Um Luckily, I had my wake up call kind of early
That's
on,
good.
but
Yeah.
it was a rough couple of months. It was like full throttle, and um, there was definitely some sense of dependency on these substances, and just trying to get through the day. And what happened was one night I went out, and I went out by myself, and I met up with friends at the bar or whatever, that whole kind of thing. And I ended up just getting really, really intoxicated, like very intoxicated.
Blackout. Yeah.
Just, when you reach that point when you're like, oh, okay, I'm,
You don't remember.
that's it. You start, yeah, it becomes a bit of a brownout, and then and then you just kind of um, lose the rest of the night. And
Mhm.
that was kind of what happened to me. And then events transpired after that point, and I remember just ending up at a friend's house. And I remember it was also the dead of winter, and I
Mhm.
live in New York, so it
It's
was
cold out there.
very cold. I remember I ended up, I don't want to say my friend's house because they weren't really my friends, but they were acquaintances. And
Mm.
they I had vomited all over everything in the house
Oh
because I was so
man.
sick. And I
Yeah.
remember they picked me up. They literally, two of them picked me up, and they put me outside on the sidewalk, and they were like, "Do not come back into this house," and then closed the door and locked it.
Oh damn.
And they just like left me out on the street, and I was like, okay. And I'm in the, a tank
Oh,
top
did
and
you have
a
anything on?
like a jacket, like a
Oh, like
light
barely
jacket.
anything.
Yeah, I was like, going out for the night, so I'm like, I don't have
Oh
my parka,
damn.
you know what I mean? I'm not wearing my winter
Yeah.
boots. So um and I remember that night I ended up getting home, and it was just a really rough night. Like it was just a nightmare. And the next day I woke up, thank God. I woke up, in my bed, but I lost my wallet. I lost my keys. I didn't have a full idea of what happened the night before. I had cuts and bruises on me. I felt awful. And I remember I woke up and I was literally shaking because I think I had probably had alcohol poisoning from the night before. I was
Yeah.
like white as a ghost, and I just remember sitting up in my bed and being like, okay, like this isn't cool. And nobody knew. Nobody knew. My family, my friends, nobody knew that I was like struggling like this. This was just like, okay, like I'm going out tonight, like see you guys later, and like, she's having a good time, but like this was not like me. This wasn't my personality. This was just me
Like a
really
coping.
coping and just
Yeah.
not knowing my limits, and pushing my own limits knowingly, because I just, every time it was like I wanted to get further and further and further away from what was actually, going on deep down.
Yeah, 'cause I know personal experience. Like I've been through similar situations, and my conclusion is it does not help. And if anything, it just delays. It delays it, and it makes it worse because it's just another way to kind of run away from your
Yeah.
problems. But it's like your problems are never gonna go away until you face it. So it's like you're just delaying the inevitable,
Yeah.
and one day you have
Wake
to
up
face
call.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to, because that's the only way that's gonna really uh begin your healing process.
Exactly. And I think a lot of people, they can go for years, denying something. And I was fortunate enough to kind of have a couple of, low months, and then it was like, it hit me in the face. But I remember waking up that morning and being like, okay, this isn't working out. Like something needs to change, because if we keep going down this path, we're going to end up in a very bad situation. And I had my school on my shoulders, I had friends, I had everything going on at the time. I was like, I can't do this anymore. This isn't working out. And
Like one day you have to say enough is enough, right?
yeah, and just like, you've got to get it together. And I just remember I called one of my girlfriends and I was like, hey, can you come over? I was like, my car is downtown. I don't know where my keys are. I drove like a Volkswagen Passat at the time, so it was like a push to start.
Mm-hmm.
And or it was like the key that you like push in. And those things are expensive to get replaced. It was like almost $400.
You lost it.
I lost the key.
Yeah.
I'm a college student, so I'm like, I don't have like hundreds of dollars to throw around. Wallets, MIA, I don't know. I'm like, oh geez, I just remember being like, okay, this could have been a lot worse, and it's already bad enough, as is. I've got to now go try to find my car and go try to find the keys, which are obviously lost, in the wallet, and calling all these people, and it just turned into this mess. And aside from all of those kind of, things that were just unfortunate, I just felt like a shell of a human. I just felt like, I'm not myself. Like, this isn't me. This isn't what I do. This isn't what I like. This isn't what I'm happy with. I feel like I'm dead inside. And, perhaps that's an exaggeration, but I just felt like...
No, I know what you mean. I know exactly what you mean.
You feel like you're just going through the motions and you're not... Like, what am I connected to? And it goes back
like
to
you feel like you lose your purpose. Like,
yeah, exactly. Exactly. And you just feel like you're free falling, and like whatever grabs your attention or whatever grabs your focus, you hook onto it for a little while, and then once that busts, you go over here, and it's a very hard place to be, because being grounded, it focuses you, and even if you still are, maybe a free spirit or whatever it is, if you're grounded in who you are, you're unstoppable. And I wasn't at that time. I was like, oh my God, like what day is it? What's going on? Like, where am I going? I had really no sense of
direction. Yeah.
And for me, that was kind of my moment where I was like, all right, back to the drawing board. We need to kind of figure out what's next. And what it came down to was, I can point my finger and I can point to all these people and all these things and all these events, and oh, well, that happened to me, and he did that to me, and she wasn't there for me. And all these people are contributing. I can sit there and point, or instead I can take my thumb and point it back at myself and say, okay, what do I need to do here? What's going on inside? What's happening within that I need to be responsible for, that I need to take accountability for, and that I can also fix? And it's funny, because I had a job interview months ago, and the guy who was interviewing me, he said there's two types of people out there. There's finger people and there's thumb people. And it was like, I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, I've had this, somebody finally put, like a little
epiphany.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, there's finger people, the people who point to everybody else and everything else for their problems, and they hope to find their solutions in other people as well. And then there's people who can say, all right, let's do some work inside. And that was kind of my moment where I was like, clearly none of this is working out, and we need to do some reflection and see what's going on within. And that is a scary thing to do. It's a
Mm.
very intimidating, scary
Yeah,
thing to do.
because it forces you to be vulnerable and take accountability for literally everything. Like I even like just recently came to that actualization too. It's like you can never like really play the victim, because it's like once you victimize yourself, then it's like you don't have any room to like learn. It's like
Hmm.
it's everyone else's fault.
Well,
So
and you give your power away. You give all of your
yeah,
power away, and
to
you
other
just say,
people.
"Here you go, like
Mhm.
take it." And that's not a good place to be.
Mhm.
It's I know a lot of people who in my life I've seen them there. I have a lot of people in my life who are still there, and it's a very, very difficult thing to witness because you want to just be like, wake up, like it's within, like it's everything you have is within you, and you know you're your problem, but you're also your solution,
Mhm.
and you just have to do the work. And that was really where I had that kind of epiphany where I was like, okay. And you know, I was like, it's either this gets blown out of proportion and everybody gets in my business and everybody starts to come, you know, to me and say, all right, what are we going to do? You know, is she going to have to leave school? Is she going to have to go to therapy? You know, what's going to have to happen? Or am I going to be like, all right, time to stand up, face the music, and, you know, get it together, you know, and figure out what's going on. And, you know, that was actually when I started meditating
Yeah.
um, was that time when I was like, all right, you know,
It
I'm
was after
facing,
that.
yes, it was like I had that, it was literally that day, like the day
Mm.
that I woke up and I was like a disaster and I had to call my girlfriend and we're, you know, trying to sort things out. It was that night where I remember I was like, okay, I need to do some like self healing, self care. And how are we going to do this? You know, I'd never like really done it before. I knew about it, but I was like, okay, you know, I don't really know how do we actually like do this now? Like it's
Mhm.
time to actually do it. And um I just remember like kind of trying to make my apartment kind of like cozy and nice and got like a little candle and um I listened to this guided meditation and it just first and foremost it just kind of put me at ease and it just made me feel like I wasn't alone, but
Mhm.
it wasn't like I was accompanied by somebody else. It made me feel like I wasn't alone within myself, if that makes sense. Like
Mm.
I felt like there was this whole like world, this whole person like within that I had been ignoring.
Neglecting.
Yes, and
Yeah.
neglecting. And now
Because you
I'm
lost
like,
yourself.
exactly. And
Yeah.
now I'm like, oh, she's still there. And
Mhm.
that's what I love about guided meditations is that I had one person write to me a couple of weeks ago on my Instagram, and he said, you know, your meditations have made me come home to myself. And
Did you cry?
I was so honored. I was like I
Yeah.
still get goosebumps. I'm like, because that really is what it's all about. It's about coming home to yourself
Mm.
and you know, seeing this person, this world, this, you know, life like within you that
Mhm.
you really have to nurture and take care of and be friends with, you know? And
Yeah, you have to love yourself, man. You have to.
you are, at the end of the day, the only person that you have. Like nobody's coming for you. Nobody's gonna fix you. Nobody's going to make your life better. It really is all within you. And
Mm.
it's something that's daunting and scary to some people, but it's also incredibly empowering when you think about it because you're like, okay, I have complete control. I
Yeah.
have the ability to shape this life and this world and this perspective and use my mind and when you look at it as that, and this empowering mindset, then you kind of, you your whole world changes, your whole perspective changes. And that's really what led me to find my purpose and my passion and, who I was. And that was really what kind of started it all off for me.
What was that like first meditation that made you feel like that?
I think it was, well, I always listened to this two guys. They're called the Honest Guys.
Oh, yeah.
Have you listened to them?
Yeah.
I love them.
They're on YouTube.
They're on YouTube, Spotify.
They have like freaking. They have like the 24-hour ones going sometimes, and like the live ones. Yeah, I know them.
Love them. And I will always recommend them because they really started my meditation journey. But it was, the visualizations really got me because I felt like I was like transporting somewhere else, but that was somewhere else within me. And that's why I love to do visualizations, because especially like in the ones that I upload and that I share with people, because it's so unique. It's a unique experience for everybody, but it's like a journey away from home, but within your home. 'Cause it's all within you and it's within your mind, and it's something that's untouched by anybody else, and you can make it whatever you want. And so, I don't remember what the specific meditation was, but I know it was one of the visualizations, and I was like, oh, like this kind of transports me, but I'm here with myself, and that's really what matters the most.
I was gonna ask you how do you come up with those?
With my meditations?
Yeah, like, cause the visual, I feel like you really gotta be creative and like think about it, cause there's been some like visualization, like it really helps. Like I think there was one I listened to. I don't know if it was you or I also listened to her name is like Shell Hamilton or something. She does the mini ones. It's like meditation minis.
Oh yeah, I think yep. On Spotify.
That's like Spotify, podcasts, Apple Podcasts.
Yep.
And there's just something about it where it's like, it's kind of like when you like write something down on a piece of paper, and then you like something you want to let go of, and then you like crumple it up and throw it away.
Yeah, I did one. It was my letting go.
Yeah.
Letting go, and it was on a beach, and there was like a campfire. I don't know if that's the one that you're referring to, but you.
Oh no, I just made that up.
Oh well, I did a visualization just like that.
I just made that up on the top of my head.
No, I have one just like that. It's like I said, situated on a beach, and you come up and you have this opportunity to write your thoughts down. And again, this is all happening within your own imagination, but it feels very real to you because it is your reality. It's within your mind, and it's just that visualizing something that you want to achieve, whether that's something that's tangible or whether that's something intangible or emotional or whatever it may be. Visualizing that and seeing it as something that's real in your mind's eye, like that is really what helps kind of connect the two, something that's in your mind, something that you want to do, and something in your life that you do really need to do, like letting go of somebody, cutting ties with someone, letting go of emotions, whatever it may be. And visualizations are so powerful. And to answer your question as to how I come up with them, I think I just have a very active imagination. I live, again, I'm back in my like nature wonderland, so I'm constantly exposed
nature
to it.
There's something about nature that like
it
opens up like your creative juices.
No, it really does. It really does. There's been studies that have been done that prove this, and it's I haven't written about this so much in my blog, but I spent a year living in New York City, And it was when I first moved down there for my job, and I didn't grow up in a city, right? Like I said, I grew up in nature, so it was a complete
Mm.
like 180 from what I was familiar with. And I remember being there and just losing all sense of inspiration, creativity. Like I lost that in myself. And when I returned back to nature, and when I returned back to, the forests and the streams and the fields and, just the animals and everything, it was like it came alive again. And so being without that for a year, when I did come back, it it like fired me up even more, and I just felt like I had all of these ideas and places that I went to in my mind, and it just really brings it out. And so that's kind of where, when I am creating a visualization, I'm like, okay, you know, what do I see, or what have I been a part of? Or a lot of them have been inspired by things that I've done, things that I've done out in nature myself. And it's it's just so powerful, and it really is. It's such a beautiful way to connect with yourself and to
Mm.
get creative and imaginative and just like let your mind go, but also do something, beneficial for it, because you go in there with an intention.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that. Like, what is like the your experience in like that, like living in the city versus um living in nature, and then like what was like the main thing that you felt like held you back in like city life? Um, because I know like city life is, to me, like in one word, city life just seems like noise. Like it's just
Yeah.
noise, distraction. So what was
Yeah.
like the main difference?
I guess I'll preface that by saying that, what works for one person isn't going to work for another. And, it just didn't work for me. And I constantly joke about this with my colleagues because they all grew up in the city. And I'm like, you guys, if you came up to like where I live, like you wouldn't know what to do with yourselves. I'm like, you guys would be like, and they're like, yeah, I don't know, like what do you do up there? And I'm like, man, like just go for walks and just go sit by the stream and go like dance in the field. I don't know, like you just are. And it's true, and I think for me, being in, having sprawling landscapes and
It's like
hills and
freedom.
forests and everything, it's freedom. And then
Yeah.
moving into, a 450 square foot apartment, I'm like,
Oh,
wait a second.
in New York, in the
Yeah,
city.
in New York. Yep.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, so what do I do? Like the nearest, how can I get to the nearest park? And then I go there, Central Park, and I'm like, well, this is flooded with people. Like, where do I go to find solace? And in New York
Yeah.
specifically, like what you said, the noise, New York never turns off. It never shuts off. It's the city that never sleeps, but it never ever turns off. And so what happens is you just become so overstimulated, especially as somebody who
Mm.
is used to quiet, like silence, peace, the birds, the crickets, the frogs, like you can hear all these things, you can literally, like if I'm walking down the road and, a flock of geese flies over me, I can hear their wings. This is like these little details that I'm so tuned into because that's how
Yeah.
I grew up. And so being in a city, it's car horns, it's trains, it's people, it's, billboards, it's concrete, it's lines, it's squares, it's, everything is man made. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like I need to like I need some sense of like fluidity in nature, and just that that connectivity that I've grown up with. And being in the city, it just was
It takes that away from you.
overstimulating. It does. And it was
Yeah.
just so overstimulating, and I felt like I could never be fully, wholeheartedly in the present moment because
Mm.
my mind was always here, there, da 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 da. You sit down to
All the
meditate and,
noises and stuff. Yeah.
I couldn't escape it. I lived 1 block away from the train. So, and I was in Astoria, so the train goes above ground. And, every, 5 minutes, the train's going by. So it's like, or, a car slams on its horn, or the guy above you is stomping around, or the neighbors next door. It's always something, and it takes you out of the present moment because something else demands your attention at all times.
Mm.
At all times.
Yeah.
Even being in a meeting, we have been in meetings on, in high-rise buildings, and we're up on the 20th, floor, and you can still hear, cars down below, horns honking and stuff, and it just takes you out of the moment. I'm trying to focus on something, and then I hear, and somebody who grew up in that environment, maybe they're more accustomed to it, and maybe they can drown it out because they're like, well, I grew up like this. But for somebody who didn't, for somebody who came from, again, quiet, peaceful nature, I'm not used. Oh my gosh, I don't think I've ever heard a car honk its horn on my
Oh, where do
street
you live
ever.
now?
I live in upstate. I live in upstate New York, and it's just it's
It's
quiet.
quieter.
It's quiet. It's just quiet. Like I don't even know if a car's gone by in the last hour. Like,
Yeah, I've
it's
never lived
opposite end
in.
of the spectrum.
I never really like visited New York, but I grew up in Delaware,
Okay,
so
okay.
it's not too far.
Yeah. And Delaware is not, I feel like Delaware might be like in the middle of, you have that like suburban life, and then you have that kind of like countryside
Oh
life, and
yeah,
is like a mix of both kind of.
yeah, Delaware. I grew up in like the suburbs, and we had like this. Me and my friends used to go to this park, um, and we would just do exactly what you said. We would
Yep.
frolic in the,
In the fields. Mary Poppins style.
yeah, we would frolic in the fields. And no, there really is something about it. It's like, because even the people like that you said, oh, like I'm used to it. I don't think they're really used to it though. I think this like subconsciously it's affecting them. Like they may be used to it, but subconsciously, um, it's it's taking away, like you said.
It's taking away, and I think it's noise, it's distraction, and this was kind of another thing about being in the city is that, I always felt like I had to be doing something, and I'm a firm believer that doing nothing is doing something because you need rest, you need reflection, you need relaxation. And to me, waking up and going for a walk and then just spending time outdoors, puttering around, like working in a garden or, going for a swim or whatever it may be, to some people, they might be like, okay, well, when are we going to go out? When do we go shopping? When do we go to the restaurant? But for me, like, I didn't grow up like that. And so when I was in the city, I would always tell people, I'm like, there's something to do. And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, they're like, there's a million things to do. And I'm like, no, there's like nothing that I can do. Like, I, I don't want to go to a coffee shop. I don't want to go to this restaurant. I don't want to go shopping. I don't want to go to this event. I just want to go for a walk in nature. Like, and it was like a foreign concept for me. I'm like, I just want to like sit outside on my deck and watch the leaves fall, or just go for a barefoot walk in the grass. These are things that like I want to enjoy my coffee outside. Like things that for me seemed so like second nature, and in the city I couldn't get that, and so I felt very much outside of my comfort. I
It
felt
was
like a
like
fish out of
taking away
water.
from it sounds to me like it's taking away from your peace.
100%. I mean, when I spent that year in New York, I developed just unwavering anxiety to a point where
Mm.
bringing my garbage out of my apartment and going down the hallway to put it in the chute, I would save it for morning. I mean, thankfully, so I'm very into health and fitness, and I've always
Yeah.
belonged to a gym. and that's what always got me out of my apartment. I would get up really early. I would go to the gym. I would get out before everybody else did, which again in New York doesn't really happen, but the earlier the better. And I would come back to my apartment at like 9 a.m. and close the door, lock it, and I'm like, okay, I'm done for the day. I don't have to go out again. It really
Like a relief. It was like relieving.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
and just that environment, it took a lot of my peace. It took a lot of my comfort, and I was constantly stressed. I was constantly anxious, and I was constantly angry. I was very angry. I was angry at
Why were you angry?
I was angry because I just felt like, am I crazy? Like I
Really?
genuinely felt like, am I crazy? Like, or am I just not fitting in here, or am I missing something? And it made me angry because I was like, I'm a very compassionate person. I am just an empath. I'm a lover. When I
Yeah.
was like 10 years old, I remember there was like a homeless guy in our town, and I begged my mom, begged her. I'm like, please give my weekly allowance to this homeless guy. Like, buy him a gift card. I want him to eat. Like, 10 years old. I mean, I would cry when I saw a homeless person. I've just always been like that. I see a worm on the road, and I'm like, all right, I got to pick him up and bring him to the otherwise he's going to get hit by a car. You know what I
A
mean? Like,
worm.
oh, it's truly, like, there's some days I can't even go all the way down the road because I'm like, okay, there's got to get this guy. There's a snail. He's going to get hit. I'm like trying to save the
Yeah.
world. And and what made me angry was seeing so much
Like
disparity,
neglect. Yeah.
neglect, seeing a homeless person. I don't care how they got there. I don't care what it was, but just seeing somebody at the lowest point in their life, you know, truly at rock bottom, and to just walk by them and have to ignore them, that just, it killed me. It killed me, and it made me so angry because I wanted to help them, but I knew that there was nothing I could do, and so I had to shut off that version of me. I had to shut off that part
Mm.
of me that cared. And I had to,
Yeah.
being a compassionate person is a massive part of who I am. And when you have to take that away and just shut it out, it kills you.
No, that's really that's really that should be a part of everybody, to be honest.
No, it's true, and
Being
that was something that I was
compassionate,
like,
you know.
how,
Yeah.
I'm like, how do these people not? And maybe they do feel sad for them, maybe they do, but I know that there was a lot of people that I talked to, and they're like, oh, you just ignore it, you just gotta ignore it and move on with your day. And I'm like, well, like, what? Like, no, I feel bad for these people or whatever, and
Yeah, it's
it
bad
made
out
me
here
sad.
too. In Austin. It's
I can imagine.
every every corner, every corner like stoplight or like an
Yeah,
intersection, there's somebody there.
yeah.
It's just
It's
sad.
it's it's sad, and it's like, I know I spend a lot of time in France because my fiance lives in France, and he lives in a town where there are a lot of homeless people, and even Paris has a lot of homeless people. And
Yeah.
there's, there are some inevitables about it, and there are some people who, that's a lifestyle choice that they want. I mean, I know that there are some people who they choose to, not conform to the system or whatever it is, and,
Oh.
there are those
Yeah.
kinds of people. There are also people that are there due to things that were outside of their control, and that is what killed me. And what still affects me is just seeing people, knowing that they're at a low point, knowing that they don't have all of the things that they need, knowing that, I can just go to a Starbucks and get a coffee, and they can't, or
Yeah,
they
like
can't, they don't
basic
know where their next meal is going to come from.
yeah, like basic survival. And it things like that give you a different perspective on gratitude.
100%. Well, and is it Maslow's hierarchy of
Yeah,
needs,
yeah, yeah.
right? And if you look at that, and then you look at like a homeless person who's at the lowest, but they don't, like, do they have that shelter? Do they have the food and water? That's like one of the foundational parts of that hierarchy, and they don't have. So I mean, how that that person's not at a good place? That that person's struggling, and that's something that's so fundamental to all of us, and we grow up with it and we don't think twice about it, but there are people who don't have that. And again, it gives you a whole new perspective on gratitude and on, you know, being compassionate and just saying, look, I might not be able to fix your problems. I may not be able to change your life, but I can do something nice for you. I can do something to make it 1% better today, whether that's
Mm-hmm.
buying you a sandwich or giving you a water bottle. I've given homeless people things out of my own bag. I'm like,
Yeah, yeah,
I don't have anything. I don't have any money on me. Here's a granola bar. If it
yeah.
fills you up temporarily, take it. And it's like, that's just who I am. And I know some people still look at me like I'm crazy, and they're like, oh my God, just, move on from it. It's not your problem. Like, get over it. Like, these people are on their own and they're doing their own thing. Like, they don't need you to fix them. And it's like, yes, but there is that part of me that, it's very
Just do
difficult
it
to switch
anyways,
that
yeah.
off.
Or yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's challenging.
It's
It's
like
very
it's not gonna
challenging.
hurt anybody if you
Right.
just give, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a big part of who I am, and just what really matters to me, and that circles back to my purpose. And ever since I was young, I always wanted to help people. I always wanted to help people. I wanted to help animals. I just wanted to help. I just wanted to know that, somebody else is in a better position, even if it's 1% better, even if they just crack a smile, something that's just a little bit better, a little bit more impactful. If I can do that for somebody, then that's truly all
No,
that I
yeah,
want.
that's the goal with this podcast, to be honest, is like, cuz like that's the mission I stated earlier. If I can just if some one person listens to this, one
Yeah.
person that listens and it gives them enough insights to change the course of their life for the better.
Yeah, and that's exactly what my mindset was when I began a Zen Mind. I just remember thinking, if one person across this entire globe listens to this and finds a bit of peace, a bit of, calm, whatever it may be, if they feel a little bit better after they listen to a meditation, that's all that matters. Is that if I can put something out into the world that's going to make it a better place, even if it's just for one person, then I'm happy. And that's truly like my driving force for a Zen Mind. And now that I've gotten more exposure with it, more people are aware of it. I've built this, it's still a small community, but with over 500,000 downloads worldwide, that's
That's
ringing in the
good.
ears of people who need it, and people
Yeah.
who want it. And I've just had so many messages sent to me from people just saying the most incredible words, just even if it's just thank you, like just thank you for what you do. Thank you for helping me heal. Thank you for helping me shift my mindset. Thank you for helping me come home to myself. These things, like
It gives
the
you
sense of
fulfillment.
appreciation, it's,
Yeah.
you cannot put a number value on it.
Yeah.
You can't. It's just, it is the most incredible feeling for me, and I get to go to sleep every night knowing that I've positively impacted one person's life. And I look back to the honest guys, and I think to myself, I'm like, they started my journey, you know,
Damn,
they were
I
what
gotta
kicked,
have them
they
on here.
worked for me. Yeah, they're great. They're really great, but you know, it's like they kicked off my journey, and it's like that was they kind of like welcomed me into a meditation space, and I felt very, I think, you know, meditation is a very personal practice, and you know, there's a lot of options out there, a lot of different types of meditations, people that you can listen to, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, you're listening to somebody's voice, you're listening to somebody's words, this is coming from a different person. So you do really have to connect with that person. You know, you might not like the way that this person pronounces their S's. You might not like,
Oh
you know,
yeah, there is
you know,
some.
there's,
There is some where I was like as soon as they started talking, I was like, I can't. I
it's
can't.
very personal. It's very, you know, it's like some people they don't pause enough, some people they pause too much, some people they talk too fast or too slow. You know, it's very personal, and um what works for one person isn't going to work for another. But
hmm
you know, for me it was just, you know, that was where I kind of got my feet wet, and I was like, oh, like this is great, like this is awesome. And there's this whole world where you can explore, you know, guided meditations, unguided meditations. You know, you can do walking meditations. You can do, God knows, I've done a million different types of meditations that, you know, are all
What
over
would
the
you
place.
tell
But
somebody who's like, I just can't like focus? You know,
yeah,
what would you tell somebody?
um,
Or like they have trouble, like they can't. I just can't meditate. Like, what would you tell somebody?
yeah, a couple things. And I think the thing is, that we have to remember is that, and there's different people who believe different things. You know, somebody might say there's, you have to do it this way or you have to do it that way. I don't believe that. I believe that it's different for every single person. And in my mind, and what I would say to somebody is, meditation isn't about what you do, it's about how you're doing whatever it is that you're doing. And so I talk about it in my blog. My most meditative experience that I've ever had in my life, which I still can think back to and remember with utmost detail, wasn't like, I wasn't sitting on my floor. I wasn't in a quiet room. I wasn't, you know, peaceful. I was in a club. I was
Oh,
in
what?
like a house techno club in London at like 3 in the morning. And that was my most meditative experience. And people are like, what are you talking about? How does that work? And it's a testament to, it's not about what you're doing, it's about how you're doing it. And for me, in that moment, I was nowhere else except 110% into the present moment. I was so tuned in, body, mind, soul, that it
Yeah.
was truly like, it was like time stopped, and it was just, it was so incredible, and it was so moving. And I'm in this like dark room filled with maybe like 100 people, you know, and there's music playing and there's people dancing, and it was just, I was so fulfilled, and I was so present, and I was so alive and aware and connected. I wasn't in the future, I wasn't in the past, I was nowhere but now. And meditation ultimately is about being in the now, being present, being
Present, yeah.
connected, because our life is just made up of nows. Our realities, our existence, it's just now. All we have is
There's
now.
only, yeah. Yeah, I always tell people the same thing. It's like there is only the now. Yeah, like we can't live in the past, you know. You could only learn from the past and hope for a better future. You can't dread on either or, because that takes away from the present.
Yeah, and you really, like, to be tethered into that present moment. And I'm not talking present moment like this part of my life. I mean, of course, there is some sense of that, but I'm talking about like
The
this
actual,
millisecond, you know, like
like,
we're
like right
following
now.
down like pinpoint, like this heartbeat, you know
Yeah.
what I mean? This
No,
breath, like
yeah.
that's ultimately what it is about. And so when people say that they can't focus, you know, something that I like to remind people is, you know, first of all, don't be judgmental on yourself, because meditation, it's not easy to start off with. Your mind is constantly running around and wandering, and thoughts pop up. Like that's normal. We're human. We have experiences in our day and thoughts and emotions, and things are going to come up. Things are Your mind is very active for a reason. You know, we can't just like flip a switch and turn it off. And if we could do that, then the world would be a very different place. But that's not what we do. We think about things, and it is hard to focus. I just did a poll on my Instagram actually, and I said what's the most difficult thing? What do you struggle with the most about with meditation? And flying colors, it was hard to focus. You know, there was like a
I
couple
think I
different
seen
options,
that
and
one. Yeah.
everybody was saying it's hard to focus. And it's if you go into it and you say, okay, I'm gonna focus, I'm gonna focus, I'm gonna focus, okay, I'm
Like
gonna
trying
focus.
to focus.
It's like trying to fall asleep. You know, if you're
It's like
focusing on, okay, I have to fall asleep.
there's like this like thing that like Tony Robbins always used to say. He's like he like tells the room like think of like something. I forget exactly how it goes, but it's like think of like something brown or
Is it a pink
something.
elephant? Is it a pink
Yeah.
elephant or something?
And
Yes,
then he's
I
like
just heard
look
that.
at that or something, and like everybody can't do it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's this concept like, okay, all right, everybody just think of a pink elephant, and everybody starts
Yeah.
thinking of a pink elephant. And then it's like, all right, now close your eyes. Now whatever you do for the next 5 minutes, do not think about that pink elephant. Like
Yeah.
how are you know, it's like you can't.
But
Your
it's
mind is
already in
going to
your
be like,
mind, yeah.
yeah. So it's like it's natural to not be able to focus on one thing. You're not supposed to, but it's bringing that awareness and being like, okay, my mind has wandered. I'm going to bring it back. I'm going to bring it back to my breath. And I'm non-judgmental. I'm not going to get frustrated. I'm not going to get angry. It's gone here. I'm just going to bring it back here. Or it's gone over
Mhm.
here. Let's explore why it's gone over there. And we're going to, you know, just bring it back. I don't care. It's like a dog on a leash. However many times it's going to walk away, you know, just bring it back. And and
Mhm.
and it's not going to be overnight. I mean, I still struggle with my focus all the time. All the
Yeah,
time.
same.
Meditating all the time.
Same.
It's a big
Same here.
struggle. It's a big struggle, and especially in today's world, it's getting worse
Attention.
because of the attention
Attention.
span,
Attention
especially
is the
younger generations.
yeah, attention is the new currency. It's the new
Yes.
currency in this generation.
Yeah, you know, I remember being younger, and you had to watch a full video, you know, or a full
Yeah.
movie. It was like, you know, a 15-minute episode of something, or, you know, a full YouTube video. And then as we got older, it turned to, you know, Instagram videos, and then it turned to, you know, YouTube shorts, and then it turned to TikTok. You know,
TikTok.
it's like,
Yeah.
it just requires such a short amount of attention until you receive that instant gratification that you just move on.
Mhm. Mhm.
And you train your brain. And that's why it pains me to see parents. I'm not a parent, no children, but you know, it hurts me to see young kids scrolling on TikTok, because you're just, whether you realize it or not, you're programming their brains. I mean, they're being taught, you know, they receive instant gratification, they receive that hit of dopamine, they receive that feeling of, okay, I'm satisfied within 4 seconds, and then on to the next, you know, and then your
Yeah.
mind demands multiple sources. You know, you have to watch a movie and be on your phone. You have to be doing something and have TikTok in your hand. You have to have you have to be listening to music and doing this.
It
And your
takes you
mind,
away from takes you away.
yeah, it just pulls you in so many different directions, and you get lost. You get lost in the noise. And again, going back to the city, exactly what it was. You know, one minute I'm listening to music, and then I hear a car honk its horn, and then I start thinking, and then I'm tuned into that, and then I hear the train go by, and then I hear somebody yelling or talking, and your mind just gets pulled in a million different directions. And um, it's the same thing with our attention span. It begins to demand so much of our attention, and in such short bursts of time, you just get caught up and you just become wrapped up in it, and you lose yourself.
Yeah, I think people like I just did a YouTube video because I just started a YouTube channel as well about doing a dopamine detox, and it's
Yeah.
like it was the hardest thing. Like all I did was like work out, read, and listen to classical music,
Yeah.
and like go on walks and stuff. But it was, yeah, it try it. Like it's hard,
Oh
to
yeah.
be honest.
Yeah.
Um to just take a step back away from, like you were saying, and like all the noise of just like your phone. Your phone is now like your third hand. Like it's like,
Yeah.
and I think today's society is just, honestly, it's just it's encouraging it. It's encouraging people to uh, look away from within.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. It gives you all of these other options, and it pulls your attention away, and it makes it so easy, so accessible, and you can just do anything else other than sit with yourself. And that's why people are so scared to do it, because they have so many things available to them. You know, it's so easy to look at your phone before you go to bed. It's so easy to check your notifications first thing in the morning. It's so easy to get on your computer, whatever it may be, that all of that it's the outer world, and the outer world is becoming so powerful and so easy, so integrated with our own lives, that we start to neglect our inner world, because it's like you're constantly doing things that are outside of yourself, and it
Mhm.
becomes like people who sit with themselves, they're like, I don't know, what do I do? Like, well,
Oh
my
yeah,
thoughts, like,
there's
what does that
that's a
mean?
good
Like,
thing that um I just remembered. There was like a study where um people were told to sit alone in a quiet room for 15 minutes or something,
yeah.
or instead get like electric shock. And like 80%, I forget exactly like the study, but like it was like 80, or like it was a high percentage that they just said give me the shock. Like I don't
It's incredible. No,
I
it's
don't want
incredible.
to
It's
sit in
it's
my thoughts. Like I can't do this, just shock me already.
when you see something like that, it wakes you up to the reality of how many people are
The
so
majority of the world, yeah.
they're so disconnected from within. And you know, I know my fiance, he's a very outgoing person. He's very extroverted, and he loves to be around people. Loves it. And I'm the complete opposite. I'm introverted. I can spend like 3 days alone. I won't leave the house, and I'm like, oh my god, like it's Thursday. Oh my
I'm
god,
the
like
s- I'm
like I should
the
probably go down to the
same.
grocery store just to just to get out and see people. You know, I'm like,
I
okay, I gotta.
am. I exactly know what you mean.
I'm like, I'm like starting to talk to myself, and I'm like, what, and I'm like, oh no, I'm perfectly
Like,
fine.
hey,
Well, I
how was
haven't
your day?
left,
Oh,
and
my day, my name is
yeah, I'm looking in the mirror. I'm like, hey, I'm like, how's it
Stu.
going today? Oh, thank you for asking. It's true. It's true. I mean, but I love that. I mean, I
Yeah, me too.
and then I
Cause there's
realized,
like
I'm
a
like,
piece
okay, I'm
in it.
like, I gotta go out.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
no,
like,
I'm the same. Yeah.
it's it's there's this element of like you are so comfortable with yourself and you're so aware of what's going on inside. It's like you know yourself top to bottom, inside out. So you're like, yeah, like I'm fine sitting alone with my thoughts. Like I'm fine with it, and then you have people who are like they have to constantly be they have to be with somebody doing something, going somewhere. Like they can't be alone, they can't be alone.
Oh, sorry, that's my cat. My bad.
I just saw him
He was
pop
like
up there.
so loud in the
Wait, was
background.
that your cat making that noise?
Yeah, you heard him?
Yeah. I thought it was like static for a minute.
Nah, he gets like randomly like it's always like in the morning, like when I wake up or like right before bed, where he just like
He
has
gets like
like
this.
loud meows. Like I'm like, bro.
He gets the zoomies. The cat
But
zoomies.
all right. So I'm gonna ask you one more question before we ask like the final set of questions.
Yeah.
But what's your like experience? Because we were just talking about it actually. It's like, what's your take on like being in solitude and like loneliness, like and like feeling alone, versus like solitude? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course. Loneliness is something. This is actually something that I've gotten before from other people. They're like, "How do you spend so much time alone, but you're not lonely?" Because I'm like, "No, I'm not lonely,
Yeah.
at all." Um, there's a difference in being alone and being lonely.
Mhm.
And my take on it is that lonely is it comes back to the finger people and the thumb people.
Mm.
Being lonely it's the finger people. And the reason
Mm.
is because they are looking for something external to fulfill within. And they're looking
Mm.
for, okay, I'm lonely. Why are you lonely? Because I want somebody, or because I need somebody, or because I don't feel this way. And they're looking for other people who can fix something within.
Validate them or fix
Yes.
something.
There's a
Yeah.
void, there's a hole, there's something going on, and they need something external to fill that. And I have a very good friend of mine who, like a broken record, just constantly says how lonely he is. And this is somebody who goes out all the time, he's constantly with friends, constantly talking to people, but he is so lonely. And he's just like,
Mm.
I am so lonely. And here you have somebody who's seemingly popular, seemingly has a lot of friends, is well respected, has a good job, has all these people around him at all times, but he is so lonely. And those are the finger people who are, there's something missing within. They're not turning within, they're looking for other people. And if you do that, like we said earlier, you're giving your power away, you're handing that off to somebody else, and you're hoping that somebody or something else fulfills that void within you. Whereas being alone is a gift. And being alone is the thumb people who are like, all right, I'm alone, that's fine, but I've got myself and I've got within. And don't get me wrong, there are certainly times where, if I'm alone, I'm like, yeah, it might be nice to, call somebody, or it might be nice to, see some. I'm certainly not a hermit, I have
No, I know what you mean.
my phone, I have my friends, I have, my partner and my family and stuff. So, I'm very grateful for that, because there are some people who don't have that and who truly do feel a sense of loneliness. I won't discount that. We do all have basic human needs of wanting to be loved and needing that
Social
connection.
like interaction. Yeah.
Yeah, so of course, there's that element, but being alone, if you are content with who you are and what you have within and your mindset, it really is all about your mindset. You can be alone and the happiest person ever. You can be with a million people and just be so incredibly lonely. And I remember
Yeah.
living in New York, people would always say this is a very lonely city. And I'm like, well, really? Because there's 8 million people here, so you know what I mean? Or why
Yeah,
is
it's
that?
crazy.
Put the
Yeah.
pieces together, it's because these are all people who are looking, again, external, hoping that somebody else fills something within them. And And that's wherever you go. It doesn't matter where city, wherever. Again, it comes back to who you are as a person fundamentally, what you have going on within, and whether you're willing to, you know, find that peace and that love and that security within yourself, or if you're going to, you know, really rely 100% on other people to give that to you.
Yeah, because it's like it's common like with people, with older people, like senior citizens and stuff, like they like go into like deep depressions
Yeah.
if like let's say they were like married for like 30, 40, however years, and like one of them dies, and then they like feel like they lost a piece of themselves.
Yeah.
But it's like, I mean, that's I don't know, that's like, it's okay to like be sad and grief and whatever, but I think what it comes down to is it should be like, people, they're like, I want to find my other half.
Yeah.
It's like, no,
It's a
you should
dangerous
find
game.
you should find your other whole,
Yeah.
because you should be two whole people
Mm-hmm.
that share the same values, whatever outlook on life, that love each other and support each other in your wholeness, and
Yeah.
not your other half, because language does matter. How you speak to yourself, how even something like as subtle as that, it's like, I
Yeah.
need to find my other half, but really you just need to find your other whole.
Yeah, and I mean, to your point about, people who have lost a partner or senior citizens or something like this, I mean, I know, for example, my grandmother, she was very lonely before she passed away, because she was living, well, she was in a very nice assisted living home, but she was like, I lost my husband and I'm, by myself and this and that. And of course, there are some elements of, okay, this is somebody who may have had something for their entire life or for many years. And again, I can't discount that. I can't. And I do know that there are people out there who truly do suffer from just being lonely and not having connection. Again, if we go back to Maslow's hierarchy, we're talking about, that is a basic need, the need for connection and physical touch and, whatever it may
Yeah, it's
be.
just our nature. Yeah, human
Yeah,
nature.
but you can do a lot of these kinds of things for yourself in a sense, and not looking at that, basic, needs. We're looking at more of like a day to day, if you walk around saying I'm lonely, I'm lonely, I'm lonely, or if you're willing to
Yeah,
say,
it's kind of like what you focus on. What you focus on, you manifest. So
yeah,
if you focus on being lonely, uh,
get
you're gonna
ready to
bring
be
more
lonely.
into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if you focus on, okay, I'm alone and in solitude right now, but I love myself. I have compassion for myself, and like just practicing self love.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, it really does come back to, like what you said, language. Language does matter. Also, how you view a situation. I mean, you can look at, let's say you're going to spend a weekend alone, and you can look at it like, oh man, all my friends are out doing something else and I'm all by myself, and I'm here and everybody's there and I just feel so lonely. Or you can switch it and be like, all right, I've got some time to myself. What am I going to do for myself? How am I going to get closer to myself? How am I going to, spend time with myself? What am I going to work on that's going to fulfill me? Look at all this time that I have. Having time is a blessing. It's something to be grateful for. I can come up with these ideas and get creative and do all of these things. It's like the glass half full, half empty, you
The
know.
mindset. Yeah.
Yeah, and it really is about how you look at it and how you just how you see it. I mean, ultimately, that's what it comes down to.
Yeah. All right. We're gonna lead into our final questions here.
Yeah.
I mean, most of them are kind of deep, But
I'll do
nothing
some
too
long
like
story shorts.
some long story longs.
See, careful what you wish for an hour and a half later.
Oh no, it's fine. Like I don't even care. Like let's do this. Yeah, but some of them are deep. Some of them are well, one of them is kind of like light. But so number one is, what is your biggest regret in life so far, if you have any?
My biggest regret in life. That is deep. Um, yeah, I remember at a young age I kind of had this mindset of I don't have any regrets because everything that I
Mhm.
have done has taught me something.
Yeah.
And I I do still echo that sentiment. I do think that, everything that I've done, mistakes that I've made, things that I'm not proud of, they have taught me um, who I am. They've helped me grow. They've helped me build myself. I would say I do have, one regret. I hate to use the word regret because regret's already,
Yeah.
you're wishing something didn't happen, and
Mhm.
I'm happy that it happened because of the person that I've become because of it.
Because what you've learned out of it, yeah.
But it was basically along the lines of, doing something for my own benefit, and it was at somebody else's expense. And I looked at it like, well, this person's far enough away from me. I'm not directly related to that person. It's more, through somebody else. But it was like I should have had enough respect, even though I didn't know this person, even though I didn't, have a conversation with this person. I didn't have enough respect for them or myself, truly,
Mm.
to
Yeah.
be able to say, you know what, this isn't right. And so I became involved in something that I, you know,
Felt bad about.
yeah, and I did it at somebody else's expense. And now I know that person has, since moved on and is living a very happy and fulfilling life. But, for me, I, at the time, this was many, many years ago, I was much younger. But, I think just knowing that I hurt somebody, especially when I
Mm.
believe that my purpose has always been to help people, knowing that I was directly related to and intentionally doing so. My actions were intentional, and that in turn caused, this other person to be hurt by my actions. That would be, it'd be something, that still, I've processed it. I've moved on from it. I've said, you know what, it happened and it is what it is. But, I don't think that I should have done the things that I
Was this
did.
before you started meditating?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I was
Yeah.
18.
Unconscious.
I was just going through the motions and doing what was in my own best interest, and just kind of
Like the
doing,
ego.
yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. And doing it at the expense of somebody else. And it hurt that person. I know it caused that person a lot of pain. I know it caused that person a lot of suffering. And um I it just, yeah, it really rocked me, even to this day still. I'm just like, yeah,
It hurts.
I,
It
I
hurts
still
you.
I still want
Yeah.
to find that person and apologize,
And
and
say
be like,
sorry.
hey, that was wrong.
Yeah, I know what you
So
mean.
if there's ever a Diane out there listening to this, that's my
You said a what?
I said, if there's ever a Diane out there listening to this, I'm this
You're
is for you.
sorry.
This is for you. But
We'll see.
yeah.
All right. Um, what, who or what has made the biggest impact in your life that makes you who you are?
My mom. Without a doubt, my
Your mom?
mom. Yeah, 100%. My mom is my best friend. She's my rock. Um, the reason being is because she was the one that kind of really was the one who encouraged everything that I wanted to do. She was always bringing me outside at a young age. You know, we were going out into nature, and she was so supportive of, you know, just imagination, creativity, do your thing, you know, go out there and explore the world and try new things and be connected. And she's very much, I'm very much like her. And so I attribute a lot of, you know, my the way that I am to her and how she raised me. And yeah, she's definitely my biggest inspiration, my biggest role model. And I'm so grateful that I had a mother like that, who was very present, very connected, and who really, you know, valued those things, like bringing me out in nature, you know, spending time outdoors, spending time connected, having deep conversations, exploring, you know, these crazy thoughts. And
Like the simple things in life.
yeah, the simple things, and just really letting me express myself fully. So yeah, my mom all day long.
Yeah, 'cause that is that's kind of hard. I'm not gonna go too deep into it, like for my personal experience, but like parents in general, it's kind of hard because, like my personal experience was like, I put a roof like over your head, like I gave you like the
Yeah.
basic needs, but the connection, like you were saying, wasn't there. So it's
Yeah.
like it's hard sometimes for parents. So that's
Yeah.
pretty awesome that you had a good mom that did that, you know.
Yeah, no, I realize every day how grateful I am. I know a lot of people who are missing, you know, parts of their family. And you know, I didn't have a huge family. You know, like I said, my parents split up at when I was at a young age, and I wasn't really super involved in my father's life after that.
Mm,
But my mom really kind of like bared the weight of it all, and she was my rock. So, you know, she still is. I don't think that, I know that'll never
that's
change.
awesome.
So
Yeah, that's
yeah,
good.
very, very grateful for her.
All right. What has been one lesson that you learned the hard way?
One lesson that I learned the hard way. Holy cow. Um, you know, I think one lesson that I learned the hard way. And there's a lot of lessons that I
Yeah,
learned
right.
the hard way. Yeah, I would say kind of in line with my earlier response about regrets. You know, don't doing things at the expense of others will stay with you, and it will haunt you, you know. And
Mm,
I think that for me, I learned it the hard way because I was very tuned out to it.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
and again, I didn't even know what I was doing or why I was doing it. I just kind of like, oh, whatever, it suits me right now. So yeah, just doing things, you know, knowingly hurting or negatively impacting somebody else's life, or relationship or career, whatever it may be. It'll never get you ahead. It'll never get you ahead. It might in the short run. You might think that it will, but in the grand scheme of things, it won't. And so, you know, stay in your lane and be kind to others. And it's all about your intention. You know, it's all about, if you go into something with a certain intention or a certain mindset, that's all you can do. You know, and if that is in any way skewed or, you know, not what it should be, you know, you're gonna end up paying for it, in one way or another. You know, and it may be years later, it may be, you know, decades, who knows, but it's something that will, you know, stick with you. So yeah, just stay in your lane and be kind to people.
I think that it goes back to uh, being unconscious and being self-aware, and how
Mhm.
being self-aware and accountable um, can get you to realize things that you've done in the past that you could have done differently, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
All right, this one's kind of like light. What is one thing that you've always wanted to do but just never had the chance?
Um, One thing that I've always wanted to do, never had the chance. Um, I'm really big on pushing my limits, and really going outside of my comfort zone. And there's been a lot of times that I have, but there's also been a lot of times where I'm like, "Oh, I could have done more. I'm like, I could have done something more. I could have gone that extra step." And I would say, um, I really want to truly like travel the world solo. And
Oh,
my
solo?
my solo. And my sister's doing it right now. She's on a very long expedition around the world, and
Yeah.
she's been gone for a couple months now. And she met up with friends along the way, but she's kind of on this like leg where she's been doing it solo.
Yeah.
And I've traveled solo for a couple weeks, and that's one thing, but I really want to like go to the opposite side of the planet and just be like outside of my comfort zone and be like, all right,
Yeah.
we're doing it. We're spending time alone. We're figuring things out on our own. We are, you know, enjoying these incredible moments, just just me and me, and that's it. So I would say that's something that I still really want to do, and I still have that within me. I want to remove myself very, very, very far from my comfort zone and just kind of have the opportunity to explore, grow, and just have really incredible experiences by myself, um, to really push my own limits and have those experiences alone.
Yeah, because I feel like you can honestly, that's like you said, your limit, like push past your limits. It's like when I hear that, I hear like I'm pushing past my limits to find more of who I am.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I got from that.
Yeah. No, it's true, and I think that we're always evolving, and that there's always so much to learn within. Like, we're never done learning, and
Never.
that's why you just constantly have to push yourself and just go outside of your comfort zone. And like I said, I've taken baby steps in that direction, but I want to do more. I want to do more. I want to go bigger. I want to do scarier things. I want to, really, really see what it's all about. So, yeah.
That's actually kind of crazy because that was one of my choices for myself
Yeah.
in my intro podcast. I said one thing or some things that I wanted to do was skydive, backpacking foreign
Yeah.
countries alone, and try ayahuasca.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's funny that you said that because that was something that I wanted to do. And,
Oh, really?
man, back in 2020, I signed up for this retreat, and
Oh, really?
I was gonna go do it. Yeah, it was in Costa Rica, um, and it was this retreat where you were in the jungle for like, I think it was like 10 days, like no phones, no nothing, like
Yeah.
yoga, breath work, meditation, a lot of that stuff, and then you had like an ayahuasca ritual, and COVID ended up coming around and
Oh, that was during
shutting it
COVID.
down. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't end up doing it, but that was something that I really wanted to do, and I think that the timing of it all just showed that I wasn't ready to
Ready
do that
for it.
yet,
Yeah.
which is fine. And if it comes up again, I'll know it's right. But yeah, that was something that I was definitely interested in.
I mean, it is natural, isn't it? It's just like a tree bark or something, and they like boil it up or something.
Yeah, it's been around. It's been around, and I think
Yeah.
that um, with with shamans and shamanic rituals,
Mm.
I don't know a ton about it, so I can't speak too much on it. But I've done a bit of research. I've watched videos. I've talked to people about it, and it just seems like just an incredible um, experience in every way imaginable. So it's
Yeah, I just watched that. There's like this like documentary on Netflix. Um, and it's like people describe it as like out of body experience,
yeah.
like
Yeah,
astral
it's
projection, where you're like seeing yourself or like
yeah.
something.
From what I've gathered, it's very heavy duty, and it's kind of like you've got to be ready to really,
Like face your demons or whatever.
yeah. Yeah, so definitely something someday it was more so earlier on I was like, "Oh, I think I'm ready for this." And like I said, I think the universe kind of guided me in a different direction for whatever reason at the time, but yeah. It's crazy.
All right, this is the last question. Is there any personal insights that you've gained in your life through the process of finding your purpose that you could give to the audience that you think would resonate?
Yeah. Whew. We've got a lot. I've got a lot. I
You can
think,
just give one, like your number one.
yeah. I think that in some ways they're kind of connected, but I think, you know, for one, you've got to be at home with yourself because at the end of the day, all you have is yourself. You've got to sleep with yourself every single night, and all you have is you. That is it. Nobody's coming to save you. Nobody is going to fulfill you. Nobody is going to truly give you that deep sense of, okay, I am a person. I am whole. And if they do, in some sense it may be falsified because if you don't have that within yourself, you can't give that to somebody else. If you don't have love for yourself, you can't give love to somebody else. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and you also can't receive it, and so
Yeah.
being solid in yourself and you know, being aware, having that self-awareness, that self-love, that self-compassion, it's difficult. I mean, I'm not saying it's easy to get there, but as long as you're aware of it and as long as you are working on that and you realize that like you have to be your biggest cheerleader, you have to be your best friend, you have to be everything that you want somebody else to be for yourself because all you have is you. You've got to look in the
Oh
mirror back at
yeah.
yourself every single day. Nobody else is gonna fix you. No, nothing else is gonna come in and save the day. It really is about you, and that might be scary to a lot of people. But like I said earlier, it's also really freaking empowering because you realize, like, wait a second, I'm no longer handing my power away to other people. I've got everything I need, everything that I have is within. And I might not see it right now. I might not know where it is. It might be tricky to find it, but I know it's there. It might take me a while. It might be, a bumpy path, but it's there. And so having self-awareness, it will make you absolutely unstoppable. And having that, um, that fulfillment from within, you just reach a whole new level of existence, of, reality, of mindset, of how you face challenges, of how you deal with rejection, whatever it may be, how you love yourself, how you love others, what you present to others, how you carry yourself, all of these different things. It really is all about you and your journey with you. Nobody else. It's all about you, and being committed to that journey. Like I said, it's not easy. It's not going to happen overnight, and I don't actually ever think that there is a place that you get to where you're like, all right, I'm done. I got there. I'm
Yeah,
good.
yeah.
Like it's always coming and going. So I
You
mean,
said.
you don't just wake up one day and you're like, all right, I got there. I'm good. So what's next? We're constantly growing and evolving and learning about ourselves and changing, and just be on that journey with yourself, and just be there and be honest with yourself. If you lie to yourself, nobody's going to hold you accountable. So just,
Yeah.
treat yourself like you would somebody that you love dearly, and that you care about and that you want to see succeed. And just, you've really got to be there for yourself first. I would say that's my above all else, it's my biggest takeaway that I've learned throughout my journeys and my experiences.
Yeah, because what you said, the journey never ends. It's like the pursuit of happiness. It's like there's no end goal to like fulfillment and happiness. It's like there
Yeah.
just is.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but what is your take on like, because some people may be like, that's like selfish, and like how would you be in a relationship if like you're so like focused on yourself, and you're like, because some people may be like, that's selfish.
Yeah. Well, I think that is kind of a good segue to one of my other kind of points that I was going to make, is that it really is all about intention. Everything that you do in life, do it with intention. And
Mm-hmm.
no matter what it is, it's all about your intention behind what it is that you're doing. Why is it that you're doing that? And I've met very selfish people. I was a selfish person, and I was like, well, I'm going to do what's right for me. But my intention wasn't like, oh, because this is really good for me, and this is really, it was because I want fulfillment. I want to do what I want to do, and I don't want to be, held accountable, or I don't want to be responsible for other people's feelings. Um, Self-care and self-love, if you're doing it from a place of love, and if you're not hurting other people, you're not being selfish. You have to put yourself first. If you're doing something out of spite, or being vindictive, or like I was in my past, if I'm doing something
Mm.
for me at the expense of somebody else, yeah, you may need to reorganize your priorities and your vision.
Mm.
um, but if you're doing something like, hey, I'm doing this so I can be a good version of myself for me and for you, or I'm doing this because I need to be in a better place, or this is just right for me. If you are doing that, and you don't have the intention of doing it at somebody else's expense, what, why do I care what, Tom, Dick, or Harry is doing, if they're going to take a bubble bath tonight, or meditate, or, do whatever, if it doesn't affect me, I do your thing. If that's going to make you a better person, and if that's going to help you and get you to a better place, by all means do it, but don't
Mm-hmm.
do something at the expense of other people, in the name of self-love, or, in the name of, oh, I have to put myself first. Like, we do, but what's the intention behind it? And it comes
Yeah,
back to being honest and real with yourself. You have to be.
because the intention matters.
Yeah. Intention is everything. It's all about intention. No matter which way you look at it, your intention is, and your intention won't always align with the impact. That's a lot
Mm.
of times that's not the case. But again, it comes from that place of, you have to sleep at night with yourself, And can you sleep at night knowing that, I did this out of the goodness of my heart with good intentions, and, I was aligned with my highest good. you know it's not always going to be perfect. It's not always going to turn out the best way. There might be people in the process who, do get hurt, or are, that didn't really work out for me, or whatever. But ultimately, you do have to be mindful of your intention, the why, behind it. And again, just be kind. Just move with kindness and compassion. You don't have to be over the top, but just have that intention. Be a good person, and that's really, it's not rocket science. It's sometimes I'm like, being kind, it's very difficult for some people, but it comes back to the self-awareness conversation. It comes back to intention, everything that we've already talked about. So I think that, reflecting is a really good way to kind of see what's really going on, and just, be honest with yourself.
Any final words?
Oh man. Yeah, that's a dangerous question.
Why?
No, I just I appreciate what you're doing so much, and I think that we're coming up on an age where people are more willing and excited to talk about like mental health and personal well-being and wellness and self-development and self-growth. And I think it's a really great movement. And I think that more people are tuned into it. I think that we're starting to kind of set the precedent of, okay, let's be better humans. And I greatly appreciate what you're doing, by connecting with people like myself and others who can share their stories and their reflections and their takeaways from their life and the things that they've gone through, and experienced, and just helping others be better people. Everything in life is like a domino effect. You're kind to other people, then they're kind to other people, and it just kind of keeps going. And in today's world, we really need more kindness, more compassion, more empathy, more love, more gratitude, things like that. And
more presence.
I just think more presence, bringing awareness to that, and sharing that sentiment with others, and creating a platform where others can kind of come together and listen to topics like this, or participate in topics like this. It's really great. So my closing thoughts are, keep doing what you're doing, and it's inspiring others. And also, for other people, just everything that I've said and that I've expressed, those are my thoughts on meditation, mindfulness, self-love, self-compassion, self-growth, all of those things. It's just a never-ending journey with yourself. So buckle up. It's gonna be a ride.
All right, guys, that was Jolene. Follow her if she wants to be followed. Where can people follow you?
At a.zen.mind on Instagram. You can access my my blog, all of my meditations, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever else you listen. Soon to be on YouTube, a Zen Mind guided meditations, everywhere.
And with that, we'll close out. I'm so grateful, and thank you for coming here today. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode, and much more to come. The only thing I ask in return is for you to subscribe if you haven't already, and share this with somebody so we can get the word across and spread this community, so that I can keep doing this, because you're not only supporting me, but you're supporting the community of everyone who listens. So until next time, guys, I'll see you in the next one. Peace.